It was always the Jags.
It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome back into Always the Jags, your podcast for everything Jacksonville, everything Jaguars, everything Duval. I think this game, like if I had to pinpoint the loss on, I think Brian Thomas Jr. had a much better day, but he had one critical drop. But I'm going to preface that by saying I think Brian Thomas Jr. was our lone bright spot yesterday. I mean, when on Sunday against the Seahawks. And again, Tyson, even the play where Tyson Campbell was lined up offsides and that negated a 61-yard touchdown, that was such a fluky play. It was kind of a pick at first. I thought it was going to be an interception because the DB had both hands on it. Brian Thomas Jr. knocked it out of his hands and caught the deflection and then ran it back for 61 yards. That is just a heads-up play by Brian Thomas. And he's the MVP of the game if Travis Hunter isn't offsides on a play that didn't even end up affecting it at all, which is just so... And the thing is, I knew it because as soon as the play happened, the flag was thrown. And I think what happened, Trevor thought it must have been offsides on the defense. Because usually when the offsides is on the offense and they call it, they stop the play. They blow the whistle, the play is dead. But if it's offsides on the defense, they'll throw the flag. And if the quarterback sees that, he knows he's got a free play. So if I'm Trevor and I see the flag, I'm like, okay, I'm going to force it into a tight window there, see if Brian Thomas Jr. can make a play. It doesn't matter because the flag, it'll be coming back if we have to accept this penalty. So I understand Trevor's decision there because I don't think he thought it was a flag on us, right? And he ended up being right because even though it looked like a pick, Brian Thomas Jr. would have turned it into a touchdown. Turns out the offsides was on us. So it's kind of like it kind of affected the play still because I don't know if Trevor makes that throw if the flag isn't thrown. Now, maybe he didn't see the flag at all, and that's just... But, that's something that Aaron Rodgers, mastermind. Getting guys to jump off early, the play starts, now it's a free play. And now the receivers know, just go deep. He's going to throw the ball. If you can make a play, great. If not, it doesn't matter. It's coming back. And I feel like that's why Trevor made that throw, because Brian Thomas Jr., for all intents and purposes, was covered on that play. But anyway, going back, I think Brian Thomas Jr., I think he was the best part of this game. I mean, he scored our only touchdown. Tim Patrick then scored another one on it, and that was a good throw and a good catch by Trevor to Tim Patrick on that one. But Brian Thomas Jr. he was making catches. He was putting us in positions to succeed, and then he had one critical drop on 3rd and 5. It was critical. But my thing is, I can't really down Brian Thomas Jr. as a wide receiver 1 for that one mistake. I mean, yes, that's a mistake that wide receiver 1s don't make. But to me, when I'm looking at the game, he had one mistake. And yes, Trevor was under pressure all game. But Trevor had way more mistakes than Brian Thomas Jr. did. If you look at his stat line looks respectable, but until you look at the completion percentage. But, Trevor had over 200 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns. It's actually pretty comparable to Sam Darnold until you look at the completion percentage. And there were so many passes that Trevor was throwing that felt like they were just zipping over guys' heads. He wasn't hitting them in the chest. There's a perfect play where if he hits Hunter Long in the chest, now you're in 2nd and 3, which is the perfect play call on 1st down. Pick up some yards, 2nd and 3. You get to open up your playbook a little more instead of facing 2nd and 10. And of course, it went to 3rd and 10 and they had a 3 and out. And it's just things like that. It's a quarterback making $55 million shouldn't be missing those throws. And I don't know if it was because he was under pressure all game. And, I still believe he's the guy, but it's tough when it feels like these are not just routine, mundane things, but this is, it's the criticism wouldn't be there if the contract wasn't there. That's my whole point. If you're getting paid one of the highest quarterbacks in the NFL, that's because you make all the throws. Easy. I feel like Dak Prescott, he would do that in his sleep. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence has to be those guys, but he's getting paid more than those guys, which would imply that he can do the things that those guys do. And that's where the criticism comes in, right? It's not and again, if this is Trevor's 2nd year, 3rd year, okay, some of these throws, yeah. But, he's not Bryce Young. He's up there, and even if you compare him to Baker Mayfield, right? Because a lot of people compare Trevor Lawrence to Josh Allen. Josh Allen took some time to get going, right? Baker Mayfield also, he took even longer than Josh Allen to get going. He had to go through several different systems before he found his groove. But he didn't get paid until he found his groove and became that consistent quarterback that it feels like we're kind of still waiting for Trevor. And I understand the idea to like pay him first off of potential, but we still need it. We need you to hit the guys in the chest. Even the throw that was up high for Brian, that Brian Thomas Jr. was catching. Now, Trevor did need to get it over the defensive tackles, right? So maybe that's why the ball was so high. But if it's just a little bit lower, if Brian Thomas, when he jumps to get it, it hits him in the chest instead of him having to jump and reach for it. Now, again, it hits your hands, you got to catch it. There's just no excuse for that. And if Trevor's trying to get over the defensive line, okay, that's why it has to be that high. But there was another play where De'Ami Brown beat a guy, got behind the secondary, and Trevor just overthrew him by like a yard or so. And those overthrows happen, but in a game like this against a tough team, to me, the quarterbacks in that upper echelon make those throws, especially against a team like this. You might see the misses sometimes, but it's like that's a throw you got to make. And that's the part that's, probably has a lot of Jags fans concerned, because obviously we all still believe in Trevor. And but it just feels like that's not the result that you expect with someone with a contract that large. And like I said, we already talked about the defense a little bit. I think partly why our defense struggled, of course, Trayvon Walker was on a pitch count, so Josh Hines-Allen was getting doubled every single play. Fun fact, I work as a stagehand sometimes, and I was working as a stagehand for the NBA YoungBoy concert that was at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Stadium. And I happened to pass by Josh Allen as I was coming in, checking in for the to the end of the shift to come back in, and Josh Allen was walking out, and I told him he would beat the sack record. Of course, that didn't exactly happen, but it was very cool to be in his presence, and it's cool to be in Jacksonville and just know like, yeah, some of these players that we talk about are literally like up the road, around the block, somewhere around here. So anyway, sorry, random tangent, but yeah, so Josh Hines-Allen was getting double teamed by, Seattle has a solid offensive line as well. I mean, their rookie is playing really well. Charles Cross was a high draft pick from a couple of seasons ago. So they've got some good guys on the line. And then Trayvon Walker was on a pitch count, and I still don't think he's 100% anyway with that wrist. I know he tried to play, but like he just had surgery on it. So, it was tough for our defense to generate pressure. But I still think holding them to, like I said, 1 of 8 on third down, and beating them and holding them to 20 points, really, if it wasn't for a couple of explosive plays, because there was one, I don't know if JSN had 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns, but it was 2 explosive plays that the defense gave up, right, that we need to prevent. But other than that, they had a good showing. And of course, JSN just beat the zone coverage on Greg Newsome, and then AJ Barner beat the zone coverage. I don't know if it was on Andrew Wingard or Greg Newsome, either one. And again, a lot of that, I think our secondary is also used to getting more pressure, because Brock Purdy had no time to throw when they played, making a lot of those turnovers happen because he had no time to throw. Same thing with the Bengals. So we got to get that pass rush going again. And hopefully Trayvon Walker won't miss as much time, but without him, it's really affecting our pass rush. And I don't know. I didn't expect to be saying that at this point in the year. But it makes a difference with him not being out there. Also, Devin Lloyd looks like he got hurt, which is going to really hurt us against the Rams. We'll get into this. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and transition to us talking about the Rams, because the Seahawks game was tough, but I think at 4-2, we're still in an excellent position to make the playoffs. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go into the Rams game. Because as far as us looking at the playoffs and the division and the games that we have to win on the road ahead, obviously would love to get a win in London against the Rams. That would really because now it feels like we have to defend our contender status, right? Because people online are still saying, oh, Jags are a fluke after we beat the 49ers and the Seahawks and the Chiefs. And then look at the Seahawks game and see like, yep, we proved it. They're a fluke. Okay, the Seahawks are contenders too, right? Contenders beat up on each other. That's the way it goes. The Lions just got beat by the Chiefs, right? But they're both contenders. The Eagles got beat by the Chiefs, but the Eagles also lost to the Broncos. Contender like that's the kind of thing that happens. And I think there's more parity this year than in any other league. But to me, when people look at like Indy and say like they're contenders, the Colts are contenders, but the Jags aren't, I'm like, who have the Colts beaten? They haven't beaten anybody. Jaguars have beaten the 49ers. The Colts beat the Broncos. Are we saying the Broncos are better than the 49ers right now? Because I don't really think so. They've had some good wins. They beat the Eagles, yeah, but the 49ers have beat the Seahawks, right? And the 49ers almost beat the Buccaneers, and the 49ers beat the Rams while they were hurt. They were undefeated until we played them. So, as far as looking at the playoff picture, let me know your thoughts on this too, because like I want to win the division, but I also don't know if I want to win the division because I feel like the Texans right now are suffering because they have a first place schedule. And like so again, if we had to play the Buccaneers over the Panthers, we would be 3-3 right now because the Buccaneers are just on another level right now. And if the Texans had played they played the Panthers, they would have a much better schedule. You see what I mean? Like the Texans have to go play those first place teams because of the way their schedule broke. I thought the Texans were going to lose to the Ravens until, of course, Lamar Jackson went out. But I think the Texans still have to play guys like I don't know if they play the Lions. I think they have to still play the Eagles. I know they have to play the Bills. They have tough games on the schedule because that's what happens when you get the first place. So I'm almost like, I don't want Indy to just win it by default, and us to not make the playoffs. But I'm like, if we do the Vikings route, that they did, where they went 14-3 the year before, but ended up getting the 5th seed in the playoffs, and the Lions got the number 1 seed at 15-1. Like if the Colts go 12-5, something crazy, and we go 12-5, but the way the math works out, they still win the division, I think I'm okay because I think I want the Jaguars to go on the road. I think we can still win a playoff game on the road. I think we've shown that we can go into hostile environments and win. And I think the only real advantage you have, because it's nice having a home division game, but the only real advantage you have is having the number 1 seed. So if we make the playoffs as the number 5 seed, next year having a second place schedule in our division will set us up extremely well to be able to potentially make a play for the number 1 seed next season. I mean, of course, getting the number 1 season this season would be great, right? Number 1 seed, you should always want to win games, but that's just kind of what I'm like wrestling with, like which direction do we go? And obviously, it's very early in the season, but with the Bills losing to the Falcons, we're only 1 game back from the number 1 seed, and they're in our division, the Colts. So we kind of control our fate. If we want the number 1 seed, just go beat them twice, and we get it. You know what I mean? So it kind of feels like it's all, I mean, it's always within your hands, but like even more so than other years. But looking at the other teams in the division in the AFC, I think it's nice that we beat the Chiefs because the Chiefs might be competing for a wild card because the division will come down to them, the Broncos and the Chargers. And I think if there's any games that we need to win, like if we end up losing to the Rams, but we beat the Chargers and beat the Broncos, I'll be happy because that gives us tiebreakers over them for the playoff spots. Because now New England is starting to heat up and they're going to be competing for a wild card spot. And again, they have a very easy schedule. They still got the Jets twice to play, and they got to play Miami another time. And they already beat the Bills once. Not to mention who else is kind of making a play? I think the Steelers look like they're going to kind of run away with their division, but also a lot of people are counting out the Ravens. I wouldn't. I look at the rest of their schedule. They're 1-5 right now. They've got the rest of the games on their schedule are winnable. Their toughest opponents are the Steelers and the Packers that they've got left. They could win every other game because they play the Bengals twice. They got the Browns again. And then, they have the Texans. They have a few other teams. Oh, no, they don't have the Texans. But their schedule becomes very, very easy after this. So that's kind of like the way the Colts open up the year with a very easy schedule. So all of that will kind of play out. But basically, the Jags can't take our foot off the gas, right? Like we need to keep grinding and winning games. I mean, let's beat the Rams, the Chargers, and the Broncos. We've proven that we can do it. And obviously the Chargers, almost losing to Miami, their offensive line is still struggling. And that'll be a big game. I think we have a better chance to beat the Chargers at home than we do to beat the Broncos going to their stadium in Mile High. Thank you so much for watching Always the Jags. Make sure you like and subscribe down below. Check out some of these other videos that I'm sure you'll be interested in as we chase Duval greatness. Thank you for joining us again, and until next time.